What you need to learn is two things. First of all, shadow placement. You need to learn shadow placement. Then the second thing is how to shadow placement, then how to actually sculpt out shadow. This is a commission I'm doing, and I will show you the basics of how I shade. Normally when I want to shade, I pick a color that is near, say 30% towards white and 30% towards gray, so like this. Then the hue will be close to orange, if depending on the lighting, but on neutral lighting, this is what I would use. Sometimes it may look too light and I'll have to come and reduce it a bit, but for now this is what I start with. Then I'll go, these are all my flats, as you can see. I usually fill everything, like I'll select it and fill it with black at the end, so that all this white space that I could not fill in will just disappear. So create a new layer, clip it to all the flats, and set it to multiply. So this special lasso fill is what I use to block out my shadows. So this is what it will look like. So if the light is coming from this side like this, this is now where I'll put my shadows, as you can see. So on this side of her body, at any part of her body, the right side of me, but left side of her body, I'll have to put it in shadow. Then this hand is going to cast a shadow on her body, so I'm going to indicate that. You understand? So this is how I block out shadow. I cannot screen record the full process, so I'll stop the screen recording here, then I'll record when I'm done blocking out, then I'll show you the next step in my process. So this was the artwork will look like when I finish blocking out my shadows and stuff like that. So the next step is not really a hard concept to explain, is where I start putting in my halftones. Halftones are shadows that, the simplest explanation is shadows that are not as dark as this. So some of these shadows are blocked out are supposed to be halftones. So what I used to do, so what I used to do now, I'll enter my eraser, reduce the opacity to something between 30% and 40%. Then the places that are supposed to be halftones, I'll now use the eraser to erase the shadow, basically making the shadow lighter. Because not every shadow is directly backing the light. Some of them are on a slope, so they should not appear very dark. Like if this part of the eye is usually out, if you touch that part of your eye, you'll notice that there's skin coming out. It's not completely under the eyebrow. So you do that. Even the top of the this thing. For the eyebrows also is on. At the end of the day, you don't have to be perfect. So far I can do all these things I'm showing you. So as I've removed some halftones, because I do this halftone thing side by side with blocking my shadows. It's not all the time I do erase. Sometimes I will block out, reduce the opacity of the main fill, like in between what connects the nose like this now. It's supposed to be in halftone, so I'll block it out like this. Here you can see how it's coming together. This bridge between the nose and this is supposed to be in halftone, but that is too dark. It should be very light. Do you get? So this is how I will be going. Change to eraser, reduce, put some halftone under the eye here. Above this eye, sorry. Okay. Normally this halftone thing is only on the face I focus on. When it's the rest of the body, I don't really care much about being accurate with where there's supposed to be halftone. Like this whole breastplate is supposed to be halftone, but majority of the time I'll just leave it like that. To be honest, it doesn't really matter much, unless it's in the face that all those details will really come out, you get. So that's halftone. So I'll stop the recording here until I'm about to start my next process. This next step is where everything starts to come together. I will now go to my brush. When I used to use Ibis, I used to use a blurring brush to do this step. Sorry, Clear Story Paint. But on Ibis Paint, if it doesn't, the blurring tool is not that good. So I had to use one blending brush like that. I just adjusted it a bit. This is it. I can send it to you if you want. But okay, I don't know if you know what hard shadows and soft shadows are. But when it comes to shadows, there are two types of shadows: cast shadows and form shadows. Cast shadows are shadows formed by an object, say this hand, blocking the light from touching another object. That is this shadow here. While a form shadow is a shadow formed when an object, part of that same object, is not facing the light. So the bottom part of this hand is going to be a form shadow. So how you can tell the difference between a form shadow and a hard shadow and a cast shadow in real life is that form shadows, when they are formed around an object that is round, the shadow is going to be soft. So this is a cheek. Cheek is a soft, is round. So it's not going to, this shadow would be, you blur it out. The shadow is still there, but you are blowing it to show that there is a transition from this place to this place that is round. You get? So you blow it out like this. So any place that there is a form shadow, you would blow it out. So this place, you blow it out. So you see, for this nose now, I'm not going to blur this place. I'm going to leave it because that is the nose casting a shadow on the top of the lips. So it's going to remain hard. But this part of the nose, I'm going to blur it because it is still the nose, but just that part of the nose is not facing the light again, and it is also round. So I'm going to blur it. This one is going to be long because I'll do a lot of blending before I cut it, so you just see how far you can see the difference, man. So blur here. When there's any place there is supposed to be a soft transition, you blur it. So blur here, blur here. As you can see, the hair is casting a shadow on the face, so I'm not going to blur that. Here, I'll blur here. Also, the degree of how round a place is going to dictate how much blur you're going to put. For example, the bottom where the smiling line ends is a bit round, but it's not too round. So I'm going to blur it, rather blend it, but not so much that it will now disappear. So compare it like this versus if I do it like this, it has disappeared. So I blended it, but just a little bit. You get? Same thing with this side. I'll blend it, but just a little bit because it is still round, just not very round. You get? Okay. So I can go to the body, blur these places. I think I should stop the recording here. The face is always the most detailed part of the body. So far you understand from what I've done on the face. I'll stop here, then I'll come back later in the next step. So the next stage now, just like I said before, for the halftones, where there are shadows that are not quite dark as the normal shadows I was blocking out, there is the same thing but for the opposite, where there are shadows that are very dark, and they will appear in places that light barely reaches. So you see this ear now that does not have shading, it's supposed to have shading. Since most of it is already in shadow, what is going to appear is going to be darker than the normal shadow. Places like under the neck too will have that shadow. Even in between the eye here will have that shadow, in between the eyes. Just tight corners will have that shadow. So let's start. Create new layer, clip it, then set it to multiply. Go back to my brush I was using to block out shadows, and we begin. So in all the corners like this, a dark shadow. All these corners that you know light will not easily reach, you would put a dark shadow there. You can see it, but come to the ear, put a dark shadow. You can even change the color and make it darker. Like sometimes even as ears like this, I can still go darker and make this place even darker. But I normally don't do that. It's stress. I'm not trying to make a very realistic work. Just a certain level of realism is enough for me, or rather certain level of rendering is enough for me. So dark shadow there, dark shadow here. Like I said, under the neck will have a dark shadow. Under the ear like this, in connection to the neck. The nose will have dark shadow here. Then where else again now? If you start coming down to the body now, this place will, the back of, you can see it would have dark shadow. All these corners will have a darker shadow. Also, this is called ambient occlusion, but if you Google it, it will confuse you. There are places that will have dark shadow. This under like this will be dark. I hope you get this place like this. Any place where two objects meet each other, is usually going, the in between is usually going to have a dark shadow. You get? So under the arm like this, where these two are near each other, dark shadow, dark shadow. Do you understand? All these places like this, dark shadow. Can you see it? Then, okay, this place will have dark shadow. And after placing all these dark shadows, I'll now go and blend it the way I blended the last set of shadows. So I'll come here, blend this one, blend. The reason why I blend them is because nothing is casting these shadows. These shadows only appear because light cannot reach on this side. It is already like, it is already deep within another shadow. You get? So you're only supposed to indicate, okay, the deeper you go, the darker it is. So it's not supposed to have shape. It's just supposed to be a blot. The reason why you don't use airbrush for something like this now, because it will start seeping into corners you're not supposed to put them and stuff like that. But I use airbrush sometimes, but for finishing touches, not for my main coloring, and that's what you should do too. Don't use airbrush for your main coloring, just use it for finishing touches. So I've blended the shadows. So in a case like this now, when I've blended and I don't feel like starting to block out again, that is when I cannot pick up airbrush. Just lightly, sorry, that's too large, lightly brush some areas that you feel still need to be darker. So far you've already put it in your main stuff, you can just use airbrush, lightly brush places that you think will need it, lightly, small, don't overdo it. But the main thing is never use airbrush as your main tool for coloring at all. Don't try it. So yeah, as you can see, you don't even, it's even hard to see what I use the airbrush to do just now, because now only small change now the airbrush do for you, so you can see it. Recording for this one. The last step now in coloring is to do highlights. So I use add, create new layer, clip it, then set it to add. Then this same color, I usually don't change the color unless it does not fit. So since this is a warm color, you know the color winner, other side is warm, other side is cool. So this is a warm, since this is a warm color, it might not fit coloring on top blue. So in case like that, I'll change it to a blue color, looks better. But for now, let me stick to this one first. So this is supposed to be metal, so it's going to be highly reflective. So it's going to need a lot of highlights. It's not going to be this bright like forever. I'm just blocking out. I'll reduce the opacity and stuff. So block out where my highlights are supposed to be. Coloring metal is a different topic on this one. Anyways, but the point is just all these places where I didn't put shadows before, that is usually where highlights would be. So you put your small highlights. I'm supposed to color this one lip pink. Anyways, so do your highlights for the hair like this. I don't block out highlights for hair. I have a brush I use. This highlights is what I use to sketch, funny enough. I'll use it to you can see hair is hard to bring down normally, so no, everybody has problem with hair. So you just have to find what works best for you. So this is what I'll use for hair. Oh wait, there's one more step. Let's finish this one first. I'll talk about that. I like how the hair came out. Normally I will reduce the opacity, but since I like how the hair came out, instead of reducing the opacity, I will come and erase this lighting for them to be darker. So reduce the opacity of this my lasso eraser. I just do over these things, and the brightness will reduce. You can see. So I didn't change the layer properties or anything. The shape is really different. So, and just like before, you wanna blend all these ones. Also, when it comes to putting highlights, depending on how the material is, the highlights would be different. So on metal, I only need to blend the highlights a bit. But for faces that are usually not very reflective, I'll have to blend it like this. But even on those same faces, the thinner the surface that have the highlight on, the more reflective it is, funny enough. And if the face is very sweaty, then the highlight is going to be very reflective also. It's going to be very bright. So I'll stop the video here. Let me finish this drawing a bit. That was going to be my last video, but there's still more I want to say. Since I was calling it meta, I just said I might as well show you stuff. So if you look at the way I do my meta, it's mostly line. They are kind of randomly placed, but I use like I take the gauge and you get is I don't always use energy, not energy on the word. I don't focus on details all the time. As you can see, it's literally from your last message that I replied to that I came to this drawing and I started working on it, and you'll see when I'll start sending you all these videos and you see that it didn't take me time to get all these results you get. I just need to what's it called now? The only thing I need to now focus on after I'm done with sending all these things now is the gun. I've not really detailed it at all. Thing looks too bare, but that's it. Anyways, what I'm going to show you now is, since it's metal is very highly reflective, so even after doing all this once, I'll still come back and place some shadows that will just be bright as fuck. Let me put in the eyes. Yes, I'll place a few shadows. I see shadows lighting that will just be bright as fuck, especially at the edges of these things, at the edge of where the metal. Does this work? Doesn't have to be much, just small. Okay. So small, some here. Okay. Some here. Okay. Just extra bright. So just some corners. Yeah, I think this is enough. Then the next thing you need to know about is called bounce light. Is when, even though light is coming from one direction, I need to demonstrate this one for you. Even though light is coming from one direction like this, the reason why everything in shadow is not completely just black except the place facing the light is because the light will go bounce on maybe a wall or the ground and bounce back up, you get, and spread. It is that spread now that will now cause all this place to still be showing despite the light coming from only one direction. Do you understand? So because of that, depending on how bright the light coming front is or the background, say if she's standing near a white wall like this, all her corner like this would be shining with the color because the light is hitting that wall and bouncing back into her body. You understand? So that's why when you see some kind of drawings, you'll see that they will be looking at this, and yes, there will still be some kind of lighting in the corner of the person's face like this. That's the reason why you see stuff like that. So I don't want to put inside this water commission. I don't like giving my all in commission, to be honest. So I think that's all. Yeah, let me just detail this gun and just do some background.